Hi guys, it's Mr. Michella here, and today we're going to talk about rounding a given decimal to any place using place value understanding and the vertical number line. So this is similar, if not the same objective that we had for yesterday's lesson, and today we're just going to be expanding on that a little bit. Before I start, I want to give a shout out to some students from yesterday who got perfect scores on one of our Nearpod lessons. Jeremy, Joseph, Gyro, Penelope, Marcos, Jefferson, and Edweni. I told you I'd give you a shout out, so there you go. Now you're YouTube famous. All right, first question we're looking at today is rounding 49 and 67 hundredths to the nearest 10. All right, we're going to go through this. We're going to talk about the conceptual part of it, try to gain some understanding of why and how that works, and then we're going to look at the shortcut, which I've told you before, knowing how to do it can lead to understanding in the future, because once you know how to do something and your brain starts turning, you might get that aha moment. Oh, now I know how to do it. Oh, all right, now I see why that is. I knew how to do it before, but now I know why. So if we're going to round 49 and 67 hundredths, first thing we want to be able to do is break it down. We want to decompose it into the different unit names that we can call it by. So firstly, we can call it 49 and 67 hundredths, which is how we would normally call this number, but let's break it apart in different ways. So I'm going to be working only on this side of the board. How many tens in 49 and 67 hundredths? We have 4 tens, 9 ones, our decimal point, 6 tenths, and 7 hundredths. All right, what's another way we can say this? Well, we can say that 4 tens and 9 ones is 49 ones, 6 tenths, and 7 hundredths. We can also say that 49.6 is 496 tenths, because we can use the unit name of the number, the place value where we stop. So if I want to just group these as some type of unit, I would say 496 tenths, and I would write that in my tenth spot. And lastly, if I wanted to talk about it as as hundredths, I could use this unit name. I would group all of them together, 4,967 hundredths. So these are all different ways we can describe this number. Let's focus on these top three and see which one of us gives us the best information if we're rounding to the tens place. So which one of these decompositions gives us the best idea of between which two tens it is? And there's a big hint in the word tens. So we want to look at this top one that tells us we have 4 tens in 49 and 67 hundredths. If we have 4 tens, that tells us that our number is going to either be rounded to 40 if we're rounding to the tens, or it's going to round up to 50. It's always going to be between the number of tens we have here, 4, and the number of tens that we might be able to get to, which is 50. So between 40 and 50, and we're going to write that on our vertical number line. So 40 would be down here because it's the smaller number, the smaller value, and 50 will be up here. Now we have to think about a midpoint, because we're going to be using that midpoint and where our number falls on the line to tell us if we're going to round up or down. I think most of us know that between 40 and 50 is 45. And now I want to try to place my number on that number line and see if it falls above or below the midpoint. 49.67. Well, 49 is bigger than 45. In fact, it's almost 50. So that tells me right there my number would round up to 50. Okay, let's round it to the ones place. Where's my eraser? I use my hand today. All right, we're going to be rounding to the ones place. So which one of these is going to tell us between which two ones this number might fall? And because that word ones is there, that's a big clue. It's going to be between 49 and 50 if we're rounding to the ones place. Again, 49 is the smaller value. 50 is the larger value. Now it gets a little trickier to find a midpoint, because there is no whole number between 49 and 50. So finding the midpoint between 40 and 50 was easy. But if we can rename these as different units, I think it might be easier to find a midpoint. 51s is 500 tenths. And 49 ones is 490 tenths. And between 490 tenths and 500 tenths, we have 495 tenths. And if we were to write 495 tenths on our place value chart, it would end in our tenths, 495. Oh, 49.5. So 49.5 or 49 5/10 is our midpoint. And now we can try to place our number on the number line and see where it falls above or below the midpoint. So 49.67, and here's 49.5. Well, let's compare them. 49.5 and 49.67. We're going to need one more column here for the hundreds, the tenths, the ones, and the tens. Now, which number's bigger? As I compare from the left to the right, these 4s are the same. Don't worry about that. The 9s are the same. Still have the same value. Oh, the first place where I notice a difference, the larger number is going to tell me which one's larger. So this is a larger number. And another way we can kind of make this easier on ourselves, if we put a 0 in here and we're working with the same number of decimal digits, we can call these both by a name in the hundreds. So 49 and 50 hundredths, 49 and 67 hundredths. Well, it's much easier to hear that 67 is larger than 50. Either way, our number 49.67 would be above our midpoint of 49.5, so it would round up to 50, which is a tens place, but it's also a ones place because we're looking at between 49 and 50. All right, we're going to do one more. We're going to round to the tenths place. I hope that you're starting to see a pattern here. I hope it's starting to get easier. We're really keeping our ears opening and listening for those unit names because those are really telling us what we're doing. All right. I'm going to have to wash my hands after this. We're rounding to the nearest tenth now. All right, so we first want to identify where's the tenths? Right here, 6. All right, then we look at our place value chart. Which one of these decompositions is going to help us identify between which two tenths it is? Well, how about our number of tenths? 496 tenths and a little extra. So it's going to be between 496 tenths and it's going to be between 496 and 497 tenths. All right, 497 tenths is 49.7. 496 tenths is 49.6. I know that. I think you guys probably know that by now, and we kind of looked at that in the last problem. Now we have to find a midpoint. What's the midpoint between 49.6 and 49.7? Again, between 6 and 7, we don't have a whole number. But I know that 49.7 and 49.6 can be written in a different way as hundredths without changing the value by adding zeros. And I know the number between 60 and 70 is 65. So 49.65 is going to be our midpoint between these two numbers. Now we're rounding to the tenths place, and we need to see if our number is above or below the midpoint. Our number is 49.67. This number is 49.65. So let's compare them. 49.65. 49.67. I don't even need to make a place value chart now. We're getting more and more comfortable with this. The 4s, they're the same. Same value. They both have 4 tens. They both have 9 ones. Let's keep moving as we go from left to right, from larger to smaller place value. They both have a 6 in the tenths place. These numbers are very close. Aha, but here a 7 and a 5. So that tells me the bottom number is larger. The bottom number is our number. It's going to sit just above 49.65. It's going to be 2 hundredths bigger than the midpoint. And because of that, it's still going to go up. What's it going to round to? 49.7. Now, very quickly, that's the conceptual part. Let me show you a little shortcut. Because like I said, knowing the way to do it is just as important sometimes as having an understanding of why. Until you get that why, knowing how to do it is important, okay? if I'm rounding 49.67 to the nearest tenth, I heard the word tenth and I underlined it. What I always do is I underline the place value that I'm being told to round to. I underline it. That lets me know, all right, I'm rounding to the tenths. If I need to use a place value chart to find that, to find out which one's the tenths, I use it. What I do after I underline it is I make a little fence, okay? Because in the decimal side of numbers, when we round, we don't use anything after that fence that we create, okay? We're going to cross all of that off because when they say round to the tenths, they only want to know up to the tenths. They don't want to know past that. They want to make the number a little easier to work with usually, all right? So we're rounding to the tenths. Once we decide on what we're going to round it to, that stuff's going to get cut off on the decimal side. All right, I underline the place value that I hear. I build a fence, and I'm nosy, so I look over the other side of the fence, and I see a 7. Okay, here's my little mnemonic device to remember this. If you look over here and the number is 5 or greater, the number here that's underlined takes the elevator. Okay, so here's a little elevator going up. If this number is 5 or greater, this guy takes the elevator to the next floor, which would be 7. If this number is 0 through 4, it stays on the same floor, which would be 6. Now, looking at the number 7 here, I know that's 5 or greater. So my number 6 takes the elevator up to the 7th floor, making this 49.7. Now, we would write our number 49.67 is approximately, with those little wiggly equal sign, that means about, 49.67 is about 49.7. Okay. That's it for today, guys. Hopefully I can shout out some more of you guys in upcoming videos. Bye.